Welcome to our channel. Enjoy the video.
Every heist starts with a plan. This one started with a mistake. Picture a small group of people, none of them professionals, sitting around a table piecing together an idea that, on paper, made almost no sense. They had no formal training, no inside connections worth trusting, and a timeline that gave them barely enough room to breathe. And yet, somehow, they convinced themselves it could work. The target was valuable enough to justify the risk, but heavily protected enough that anyone with real experience would have walked away. Security systems, patrol routines, layers of access that should have made the whole idea impossible before it even began. But desperation has a way of making risk look smaller than it is. And for this crew, the reward outweighed every warning sign they were choosing to ignore. What makes this story different isn't the ambition. Plenty of people dream big and walk away. What makes it different is that they didn't. They started making calls, gathering tools, mapping out routines they barely understood. Every step forward added another point of failure to a plan that was already fragile. And the people involved knew it. They just didn't know how badly. Because buried in the earliest stage of the plan, before a single move was made, was a detail so small that nobody thought to double-check it. A gap in the schedule. A person who wasn't supposed to be there. A single assumption that everyone accepted without question. It seemed irrelevant at the time. It would turn out to be the first domino in a chain none of them saw coming. They were about to find out that the hardest part of a heist isn't planning it. It's surviving the plan you made. The night it happened, everything felt different the moment they stepped inside. Plans built in daylight rarely survive contact with darkness, and this one started slipping almost immediately. A door that was supposed to be unlocked wasn't. A hallway that was supposed to be empty had someone in it. Small deviations, the kind that seem manageable in the moment, but stack on top of each other until the whole structure starts to shake. They adapted, because they had no other choice. Every improvised decision pulled them further from the plan they'd rehearsed and deeper into territory none of them had prepared for. Minutes stretched into something heavier. Every sound became a possible threat. And somewhere in that tangle of adjustments, the margin for error they thought they had disappeared entirely. Then came the moment that almost ended everything before it began. A close call, footsteps, a light, a sound that shouldn't have been there. Something that forced them to freeze, recalculate, and gamble on a choice they hadn't planned for. It's the kind of moment that separates the heists people forget from the ones that become legend. They pushed forward anyway. And for a while, it seemed to work. They got closer to the target than the plan had any right to allow, given how badly things had already gone. But getting close was never the hard part. The hard part was what waited on the other side, because as they reached the point of no return, a detail from earlier in the night resurfaced. Something they dismissed. Something that was about to change everything. They were standing right at the edge of success, not realizing they'd already triggered the thing that would undo them. Getting in was one thing. Getting out was another problem entirely, and this crew had spent far more time thinking about the former than the latter. The escape, if you could even call it that, was chaotic from the first step. No clean exit, no rehearsed route, just a group of people improvising their way through the same uncertainty that had defined the entire night. Every second outside the building felt longer than the last. They were carrying more than just what they'd taken. They were carrying the weight of every mistake made along the way, and mistakes have a habit of following people long after the moment has passed. What should have been a quiet disappearance turned into something closer to a scramble, each decision made faster than it should have been, each risk compounding the one before it. Meanwhile, somewhere else entirely, the pieces were already starting to move. Because a heist doesn't end when the crew walks away. It ends when the people looking for them start putting the story together, and this time, that process was already underway faster than anyone involved could have predicted. A witness. A pattern. A detail too specific to ignore. The crew believed distance meant safety. They believed that once they were away from the scene, the hardest part was behind them. But distance is not the same as invisibility, and somewhere in the fragments they left behind, a version of the truth was already taking shape. One that didn't need them to confess. One that was building itself. They thought they'd gotten away. What they didn't know is that the story wasn't over. It was only just beginning to unravel. Every heist leaves a trail, even the ones that feel flawless in the moment. This one left more than most. It started small, a detail that didn't add up, a piece of evidence that shouldn't have existed if the plan had gone the way it was supposed to. Investigators didn't need a confession. They needed one loose thread, and once they found it, the rest came apart on its own. What followed wasn't a single dramatic break in the case. It was a slow accumulation of small failures finally catching up to the people who caused them. A connection here. A pattern there. Someone who talked when they shouldn't have, or a mistake made in the earliest planning stages resurfacing at the worst possible time. The very flaws that made this heist shouldn't have worked in the first place were the same flaws that made it impossible to hide. One by one, the people involved were identified, confronted, and forced to answer for a plan they never should have attempted. Some cooperated. Some tried to disappear. But the momentum of the investigation had already outpaced anything they could control. The story that emerged wasn't the clean, cinematic version they might have imagined when they first sat down to plan it. It was messier, more human, and far more revealing about who they really were under pressure. In the end, the outcomes varied to consequences, sentences, silence, disappearance, but the pattern was the same. A plan built on desperation and improvisation had produced exactly the kind of downfall experts would have predicted from the very beginning. The irony wasn't lost on anyone who studied the case afterward. They'd beaten the odds just long enough to believe they'd won. And that belief is what finally destroyed them.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss our next video. See you in the next one.